You have to have both or it's gonna blow up. Like, you're not going to get a lot of clients if you don't have any creativity in your work. They want something fresh. They want something great. You're not going to be able to finish a project and make a good profit margin and be able to know all of your data points of like where you're going if you don't tune into that very structured part of you.
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business. Hey, it's Rebecca, and you're listening to Resilient by Design. Today's episode is an incredible interview with a very savvy business owner. Her name is Mae Reedy, and she is the founder of Mae Reedy Build and Design, and she is a Dallas-based general contractor and principal designer. She is an incredible resource, a very savvy businesswoman for someone who's been in business for over a decade and decided to not only be a designer, but also also get certified as a general contractor, as a woman in the industry. We talk about that in this episode. And she has so many great nuggets about growing your team, showing up as a CEO and what that looks like. We talk about process. We talk about the power of systems and which ones make a difference, especially when you're starting out, especially with that first hire. She and I both share experiences working with our very first hires and how that worked and how it didn't, and what we learned from that experience. So if you're someone who's just starting out, or maybe you've been running your business for a little while and you feel like, I want to grow. What direction do I go? This is feeling hard. This is feeling like a lot. You need to hear Mae's story. She talks about how her business really took off after a major disaster hit her hometown of Dallas, Texas. The ice storm that happened a few years ago. She walks through specifically how she came out of that even stronger and really with a booming business. So I think you're going to love this episode with Mae. And she is raising 3 kids also. She's a mama and she loves to empower and mentor her team. She loves empowering and giving back to the design industry. So I thought she would be a perfect fit for this podcast. And she is lovely and so savvy. Guys, enjoy this episode with Mae. Okay, so let's dive in.
Awesome.
Mae, welcome to Resilient by Design. I'm excited to have you here and have this conversation.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. Just the name of the podcast itself is like deeply ingrained in what we're trying to do in our company right now. Resilience.
I love that. It's so good. I mean, it's a topic that I feel like doesn't get enough credit. So I'm excited to talk about it. Before we dive into all of the things, can you just let our audience know who you are and what you do?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Mae Reedy. I started in design side, and I am now also a general contractor. We're just north of Dallas, Texas. And I run a firm that's design build. There are about 12 of us now, big team of ladies. We're now a 7-figure firm with no signs of slowing down. We just had our meeting with our accountant this morning, and we are just like a few clicks away from hitting our financial goal for the entire year. So we've found our sweet spot. We're sitting in a sweet spot right now, and I'm super thrilled.
Oh my God, that's so amazing. I love that you're also a general contractor. Can you just tell me a little bit about that decision? Were you always a general contractor, or what came first?
Yes, excellent question. Okay, so my dad's a builder and a GC. I grew up watching him do this, and I never thought that there would be a day, many, many years down the road, where I'd be like, wow, I'm going to be just like my dad. But here we are, becoming my dad. So I grew up watching him do things a very certain, particular, immaculate, and organized way. And I just assumed that's how everybody does business. I thought I would take a very creative route. I went to school for performing arts and art. I went into textile design. I ran a very large Etsy shop for a number of years while my oldest 2 were very little. I was into textiles and jewelry, and I was just having so much fun being creative in that way. I had a dear friend come into my life who was an interior designer who needed a little bit of extra help, caught the bug, became her assistant, became her partner. And then after not very long, her husband was transferred for his job. And she was like, May, you've got this. She basically handed over the Rolodex. She's like, I'm going to start brand new up north. You keep these projects going. So I was essentially handed just like a fresh start, having just apprenticed with her, a beautiful gift, like the most beautiful thing a friend has ever done for me. So I embarked into a solo design journey at that point and loved it. We had a natural disaster that actually pushed me into GC. In Dallas, you may have seen national headlines a handful of years back. We had a huge ice storm. We get them, but this one was like the worst. Our energy grid was not ready for it. So
I
we had,
remember this. And
oh, it
everybody,
was
you guys had no
horrific.
power forever,
Yeah,
right?
for days and days.
I remember because I'm up here in Canada, so we're well
Yeah,
equipped.
you know what you're
And it
doing.
and there was houses that didn't have proper insulation or
Hmm.
heating, and oh my goodness, I remember that so well. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Okay.
it,
So
it really was a crisis.
how did that affect you in your business?
So I had a handful of previous clients whose beautiful homes we had worked on were now trashed because so many pipes broke, flooding
Of course, they
everywhere.
froze.
Yes, and then current projects that also flooded. And so I jumped into, I guess, like emergency design mode for tons of people. And it was rough. It was scrappy because we couldn't get anything. Everything was sold out everywhere. And so I'm trying to like use my connections and get people flooring and get a plumber. And I had all the people, and a lot of my clients were trying to find the right contractor. And many of them landed with, let's say when disasters happen, a lot of people come out of the woodworks that should not come out of the
Yeah.
woodworks.
The
So we
fly
had
by
some,
night trades that are like, I can
yes,
fix it. I can do it. I see an opportunity. They're the opportunists, we'll call them.
the opportunists, yes, they struck. And I could see a few months in that these projects, this was not going well. And some of these clients that I had been working with for years now, they were like, oh, I wish you were my contractor. And my dad at the same time, I'm calling him all the time, Dad, I can't get this. We're out of conduit. I can't, all the parts we didn't have in Dallas. And he's like, go get your license. Like, you need to take over on these jobs. You owe this to your clients. You know what to do. And so I did.
Wow.
And so I took over on a lot of those jobs and I didn't look back. Like, we got everybody put back together. We scraped through, we got all the things we needed. We got everybody back in their homes. And I was changed. I was just like, look what happens when I'm in charge, and everybody was listening to me. And I was like, I know what I'm doing.
I love
And
it.
nobody got in
Hello,
my
when I'm
way.
in charge, it's way better. I
It
love it.
was great. Yes. And the word of mouth that you get from a client that you will literally put
Mhm.
their life back together, that's a client for life. That's the person who's going to tell all their neighbors. And so growth just from those like magical touch points of truly like healing homes after a crisis like that built our brand. We do not invest a ton into marketing or advertising. We use our social media as a portfolio of our work because the word of mouth after something like that. Now, when anyone has a flood, we do a lot of flood jobs. They're like, I got your girl, like call May. We put them back together.
Right.
So that was the jump start into it. It was like a moment of bravery where there was like a fork in the road and I knew I needed to do what was right for the client. And it turns out it was right for my career too. So
I
it was
mean, I
great.
think this is amazing because for a minute, I want us to talk a little bit about this women in construction because
Hmm.
there are not a lot of women in construction. And I can tell you up where I live, up north of the border in Canada, it's the same. Like there are not,
Yeah.
it's mostly men. And I know as designers, sometimes it can be frustrating because
Hmm.
not all people are created equal. And so sometimes working with contractors, there is a sort of an old men's club and the way of dealing
Hmm.
with things. And it can be hard for women. What is it like as a female in construction? Like, I imagine you have a lot of sub trades that are not female, or are they? Like, are you female only? Like, tell me about what it
Yeah.
is like to be a woman in the construction part of the design.
Yeah. Well, I'm always voting for integrity with my money. So we choose our trades based on, that integrity and follow through with promise. If it's a female, amazing. We do have a lot of men that are on our roster as well, and they fit the bill for us for that integrity to client care. Um, It was hard at first. It really was. It takes a long time to find all of the exact right people to connect with, to know that you've got your go-to painters, you have your go-to plumber, you have your go-to electricians. You have to get beat up a little bit to know who doesn't make the cut. And that's the most painful part because I need a sub to show up on my job site and to know that I know what I'm talking about. If someone tries to mansplain
Mhm.
to me why they can use, electrical tape going through a stud on some run, I'm like, no, sir, please reset this. Like, I don't need you to tell me why you're breaking the rules. So getting that established as being like, look, I know my code, I know what I'm talking about, was the hardest one at first. But for the
Mm.
trades that truly respected that I knew what I was doing, um, and then the way I operate is very good for them, taking some time, but we're in a good place now.
Yeah, I imagine that doesn't happen overnight, right? That is
No.
probably, yeah, it takes a while probably for you to find your footing and grounding for anyone listening, because there are designers listening that love the construction side. And they're probably
Hmm.
hearing this today and they're thinking, huh, I wonder if I could do that. Now, there's a lot of designers listening who are like, good on you. I have zero desire to do that because it is, I would say, I mean, it's all relative for depending on who you are, but it was always one of the hardest parts of my job was
Hmm.
the construction, managing the trades. And I was never a GC. I never operated as a GC, but also just working with all the different personalities. It's harder
Yeah.
to control that aspect of the job. It's a lot easier to
Yeah.
control what you and your team are designing than it is
Yeah.
all the bleep that can go wrong on a job site. Early in my business, and it was for a good friend, and it was this beautiful slate tile. We were doing a herringbone pattern and then a border.
Yeah.
But I wasn't there before they sealed the tile. And so I didn't see or grouted the tile really, but I didn't see that the room was not perfectly square. I mean, sure, I could have caught that, but I didn't. And
Yeah.
so they made a choice. They could have called me on the phone and said, hey, do you want us just to eliminate the border? Because it looks kind of funny because the room's not square, which would have been my preference. But instead, they
Yeah.
just said, she wants a border. So they did the border. And you can imagine what happened. The whole room looked a little bit funny. And so that those types of things happen to designers all the time. That, I
Yeah.
guess, you can really mitigate that because you are really in charge of both sides.
Yeah. It takes away a lot of stress points. And then again, going back to that communication piece, my teams know when I'm going to trust them to just make a good executive decision. And when they're like, May's going to want to see this. And it's funny too, because my trades, they're not all in-house employees, but I've got some teams that have been with me for a lot longer and some that are a little bit newer to us as we've expanded what services we need. I've got a painter who knows exactly what I want for everything. And I got word a couple weeks ago that he had said to another trade, he's like, "This is when you call May, like
That's cute.
if you want to stick around, like this is,
Yeah, don't
because
make the call. You call her and let her make the call. That's a
yes,
good that's a
yes,
good part. That's a good trade partner right there.
yeah, it
That's
was wonderful. So,
so, and those things take time to develop. So let's just talk about this because you're managing this very robust, like seven-figure design build firm. I imagine
mhm,
you've got some structures in place. Like there needs to be
yes,
systems and process, and processes like ugh, my heart flutters a little beat when we talk about it because I love structure and I love systems. But I have found that not all designers understand the value of structure and systems because they're creative. And there's this, and I felt this way in the beginning. And so I really want to know
mhm.
your take on this because you did start with the design and then moved into this construction and built this firm. Is this idea that structure will not hinder your creativity? If anything, in my experience, it allows you space to be more creative. Can we talk about the place for that in business? Like, how tight are your systems?
Our systems are getting pretty bulletproof. When I hear someone be like, "Oh, that's not the next step," or "Oh, gotta follow the process," I'm like, "Yes, there's a document for that. Go find it." Um, yeah, so the balance between creativity and structure is so much more tightly knitted together than I think one would think. It doesn't feel super intuitive. It feels like two different characters. You've got
Yeah.
this person who's a free spirit and you want to dress crazy and you love the big glasses, like you have this. idea of who you are as a designer, and you're just out there, you know? And then there's this, I don't know, geeky bookkeeper, you know, then that's the structure and that's the systems and processes and, you know, spreadsheets. And you have to have both or it's gonna blow up. Like you're not going to get a lot of clients if you don't have any creativity in your work. They want something fresh, they want something great. You're not going to be able to finish a project and make a good profit margin and be able to know all of your data points of like where you're going if you don't tune into that very structured part of you. And so earlier on in my career, I was really scared of my company getting any larger. The very first time I entertained the idea of hiring some part time help for grabbing samples, and I was expecting, and I was just like, I just did not have the energy to like go get all the things and bring all the things, and a lot of times just working on a lot of mood boards. I wasn't feeling great. I was like, oh, I got to do this. This is so scary. How can I commit to this? Um, the very first time that I interviewed someone and I was like, okay, here's what we do, I realized everything lived in my head. And that was the problem. Like
Yes.
everything was here. And I realized if I'm ever going to train someone to work underneath me or beside me, I have to have everything written down. Everything needs to be an order of operations, an order of steps, so that we can always pick up where the other left off. It creates predictability.
Mm.
And so getting everything predictable of what happens next. A lot of times you might be the very first interior designer or general contractor that somebody has worked with. And you know what their biggest fear is? Not knowing what comes next. So if you haven't figured it out for your business, how can you give that reassurance to a client?
Mhm.
So our process has become a huge part of what we put out on our website. Like, hey, here's exactly how it's going to go. And it's a cute one pager and it's all pretty in Canva. And then you better believe that there's like a bajillion pages describing every single step of that process for my team behind the scenes so that what we're promising is going to be a really easy process for the client can be an easy process for my junior designers, my senior designers, my project managers, because everybody knows what happens next.
I love that. It's so true. I think that's interesting because I had a similar experience that I didn't actually realize until I was listening to you talk just now was when I started to hire. You're right. I was an intern at first, then it was just like a part-time junior designer. And the frustration that I experienced at the beginning, and I know that a lot of designers face this, is well, how come they don't just know what to do? Or why
Yeah.
didn't they do it right? Or why didn't they do it this way? And I would get very frustrated. And I was frustrated because I had an idea in my brain of how it should go, but I actually
Yeah.
hadn't communicated it to them. I hadn't even communicated it verbally. I was just hoping to hell that they could figure it out because I was so busy over here.
Right.
Can't they just do that thing? And so the frustrations that I kept encountering with my team led me to start putting things on paper because and for those
Yes.
listening, if you do want to hire anyone, even if you don't want to, a lot of designers listening don't want to scale. They don't want a seven-figure business. They don't want multiple employees, but they do want some help. And so if you
Yeah.
want some help in your business, you need to have it documented so that these people who are helping you can actually help and then actually feel like they're doing a good job. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, there, and this is what I think happened with me. I don't know. We could go back and ask my early employees. Was I'm pretty sure that they were frustrated as well. And they probably felt that they couldn't do right by me and that I was really hard to please. And to be honest, I was because I had these unrealistic expectations because nothing was laid out on paper. So you need to document what it is you do and starting with what you just said, that client experience, because clients need to know what's going to come next.
That's so true because expectations that are not communicated are only disappointments.
Ooh, I like
You
that. That's a good line. Everybody listen, say that again. That's a good one. Say that for the cheap seats in the back.
Oh my gosh. Like if you have not communicated your expectations, they immediately become disappointments.
100%.
So
And that's true of anything in
yeah,
life, right?
marriage, your kids, training your dog. Yeah, all of it. Unless you know what it was that I was expecting. If I didn't tell you, well, then you already failed. And we're all disappointed. So
Yeah, yeah. Although,
one of
what if
my,
when you tell your husband to stop leaving his shoes at the front door because you're going to trip over them, but he still doesn't do it? At that point, I feel
mm,
like it's no longer like a disappointment from an unrealistic expectation. It's a three warnings and you're out of here. You could
That's
put
when
your
I
shoes
just
in the
take the
back of the house.
shoes. I just hide them.
That's a better idea. Oh,
You
I
lost
should
your
do
shoes.
that. Okay, I just learned something. I'm going to try that one. I don't know where they went. Where did you leave them? Sorry, we digress.
Well,
But clients need to
speaking
know
of,
what to expect. Yes.
yes. And so we've really taken the time to slow that down a little bit in 2025. Um, I know I might be getting a little ahead of myself here, talking about like how I train and how I mentor. Everybody in my team knows exactly where we're at. Like we're growing. It's painful. Like we're making pancakes here. We might be on the first pancake, and this pancake in the pan is just not turning out perfect. You know, we're getting a few pancakes in, we're getting better. Like we're
Mhm.
having a lot of grace with knowing like, oh, that wasn't written down somewhere. We're getting really, really good at just pausing, and everybody on my team has taken ownership of the creation of our standard operating procedures. And so we have this huge Google Doc and it's got all these sub tabs in it. When we find something that, like, oh, this is new territory for us, we have not experienced this. How cool that we're getting to experience something new. Let's document this. Whoever it is that I'm stumbling into an awkward moment with, it might be one of my junior designers, it might be procurement. We're like, okay, we just problem solved this together. Can you please take 5 minutes to go write this down and add it to our SOPs? Like it takes
I
five
love
minutes
that.
now and not half an hour later or several frustrations or disappointments later. We are just in the habit right now of, we'll be in the middle of a text thread of, we're problem solving something. Great. Can you add this to the SOPs for me, please? We're making
Yeah.
it as we go, and we're all comfortable with that.
I
Everyone on
love
my
that.
team.
I love that. It's
Yeah.
living and breathing. And I say this all the time. It's like your process, it's a living, breathing thing because you will never be done. And it might be
Oh,
disappointing to
no.
hear that. It's someone's probably like,
Yeah.
oh man, come on. But you're never done
Oh,
because you're always experiencing something new. Even someone like you who has all this experience doing the entire kit and caboodle, right? Design through
mm-hmm.
to the construction, and you're still experiencing new situations you haven't before. I love
Yeah.
that. So, guys, if you're listening right now, if you are driving, just listen and come back to this. But if you're not driving, stop and write this down. Every time you experience something new and you troubleshoot and you figure it out, do what May says and take 5 minutes to document it so that the next time you know exactly how you did it because you might not remember. And then the next person who comes on to help you wasn't even there for that situation. So they don't know. I
Yeah.
love that.
Operating procedures are like everything for us as we have grown and expanded, because then when a junior designer has the blessing of stepping up into a more senior role and gets into project management, she can go back and see everything we've documented. And as we're training her, it's fun to share what mistakes led us to that so they can avoid those mistakes too. And then when the new junior comes on, like we see how and we all share why. We're not embarrassed to say why.
I love it. I love it. So, what would you say to the designer who's listening right now, May, and who's like, ugh, SOPs, standard operating procedures, what a drag. Like, that is not what I came to interior design to do. I
Yeah.
don't think I need that. My creativity lies outside of that. Like, what would you say to that designer that's hearing our conversation right now? And I know there are many of you listening, and I'm chuckling because some of you are chuckling to yourselves, and they're thinking, like, this sounds like a lot of work. This is not my zone of genius. Everyone says you need to be in your zone of genius. Like, what do you say to that person?
I say, wake up. It's time to divide how you think about your identity. And so I heard this really great podcast. I'm a huge fan of Alex Hormozy. I don't know if anyone else listens to him,
Love
but
him.
he's
Yeah.
great in business, right? And he dropped some real good nuggets a few years back talking about two different frames of mind. And as a designer, you have to embrace both. You need to figure out how you can unlock as big of a chunk of time for yourself on your calendar. And yes, please use a calendar, get it all in there, be structured. Unlock a chunk of time that you can dedicate to getting into a creative flow state. And the only way that you can actually uninterrupted get into that, when you know you need to be inspired to put together a flat lay for tile and you want the perfect hardware and the client hates green. So what's the perfect, like problem solving and getting into that space if you tackled everything else first. So I encourage all of my staff, and I do this myself, that we time block really smart. Time blocking is our key. We take care of all of the administrative stuff. Did you reply to your emails? Did you get with this person about that? All the ugly tasks that aren't super fun. And then you go on D&D for when you need to like just be creative, because it is impossible to be a manager and a creative simultaneously. So what times of day do you think you're just going to get interrupted a lot? You're doing a lot of administrative, kind of mundane things. Get all your manager stuff done then. Is there a time that you can get away from everybody else and not get interrupted? That is your time to shine. But until you can completely divide the two, you're not going to allow yourself the ability to lock in on creative in a way that supports growth in your business.
I love it. It's so true. I remember Layla Hermosi talked about this on her podcast not too long ago. And it's this idea that unfortunately, the ugly tasks, as you refer to them, they end up taking up most of our week if we let them. And
Mm-hmm.
that I think is, so if someone listening right now is hearing you and they're like having like little like probably aha moments, their brain's exploding and they're like firing on all cylinders and they're thinking, okay, whoa, this is a really brilliant idea. I'm going to group those like tasks together. But what do you do? How do you control it for someone who says, okay, I'm going to get that stuff done first, but then that stuff never ends? And so they feel like the end of the week comes and they're like, oh my God, I didn't have any time to finalize that fabric scheme. So I guess I'm just going to have to go with whatever. What do you
Maybe
say
it's
to
time to
that
hire help.
designer?
You might need to grow. I would say that I like to be really strict with my time blocking. And once I realize that I have surpassed, I work a lot of hours a week. I'll be honest, like we're in growth mode right now. This is a sacrifice I'm willing to make. I'm not saying everybody should always work 50 to 60 hours a week, but if it's more than I can do, then I know it's time for help. I know it either means that I need to delegate some tasks off to my team that are ready to offload some of my things so that I can get into my state. And also, really take an assessment of what you're doing and like, are you being efficient? Are you being ruthless and protective of your time? Because you might find that you think you're being inspired by other people on Instagram. Like, no, it's not the time for Instagram. Be a little bit more ruthless with your time. And I also like to set timers. I'm like, you know what? And 25 minutes for me is like my bandwidth of like the ugly tasks that I hate. I will set a 25-minute timer to get through all of my emails. And then once that's done, it's like time's up because I know I've got to go pick fabric. So at the end of the day, I can only do what I can do. And when I surpass that, I'm assessing who else am I going to start handing some things off to. Also, it might be that you didn't set good realistic expectations with who's expecting these selections from you,
Yes.
because everybody is going to want to rush you. And so maybe you need to reiterate to everybody how long a good designer takes, because it's not
I
coming
love it.
tomorrow.
Yes. That is such a game changer. And for me, I struggled a lot with that in the beginning because I'm a people pleaser, as many of us are.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I also, it wasn't even that it's not like I felt like I was jumping through hoops for clients. I actually thought I could do it in the time I told them. Because
Yeah.
sometimes we forget we're quoting our clients like 3 weeks or 4 weeks to turn around a design, but we're forgetting that we have other things than just doing that. And so in
Yeah.
isolation, yeah, no problem. You can turn around that design in 4 weeks. But what if you have two other projects? And what if you have to take your kid to the dentist? And what if you get sick? And
Yeah.
before you know it, that's actually an 8 week. And now you're stressed because you've overpromised to the client and you
Mm-hmm.
scrambling. I used to scramble all the time. So I love, love, love that. Realistic expectations. And I also love that I'm going to say this again, is like protecting your boundaries and holding
Mm-hmm.
boundaries for your time. And that is
Yes.
something that I know just as human beings, we have a hard time honoring our own boundaries for our time or committing to the goals that we set for ourselves. Because if there aren't other people implicated, right, you're not really being held accountable by anyone. It's just you. So you really do need to get strict. And this is something I still work on, where I'll say, like, this Friday is my like no meeting day. It's just going to be my free day. And before I know it, someone's like, oh, hey, you free for a coffee? Oh, hey, can we just have that quick meeting? And before I know it, I look at my calendar and I'm like, what did I just do to myself?
Yeah.
We have to be strict with our own time. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of boundaries and all that, I just want to share one nugget that we have put together this year that I think has been the biggest game changer on how our clients are treating us in relation to the timeline. And if this helps anyone, oh my gosh, I would be so thrilled. So we put out a proposal at the beginning of our project. We've gotten so meticulously detailed in those proposals so that that first document they ever receive from me has a fully outlined design schedule. Here's how many weeks we're going to meet. Here's our agenda. Here's week 1, week 2, week 3. We are going to go to 2 showrooms, no more. Week 4, you have to finalize XYZ at the end of, like, really, really, really detailed so that they know what's coming when. Because again, the people are afraid of the unknown. Here's your full scope and here's exactly when it's going to happen. That helps the client, but it's actually helped me the most because I would have said 3 weeks. But then if I sit down before I even tell them the price and what we're going to do, if I map out exactly how long that's realistically going to take, and then I put it out there into the universe, I'm not going to push myself harder and they're not going to push me harder. So
I
we've
love it.
started mapping out the calendar day 1 for me, and it's helped a lot.
It's true. So much of what we do just holds us accountable. It's like putting the verbiage in your contract about something that you would feel uncomfortable talking about. It's in the
Yeah.
contract. You talk about it, you walk your clients through it. So it's like, okay, well,
Mhm.
I guess this is what we do. And so it's there.
Here we
You've done it for
go.
yourself. So in some ways it's like putting what's the word? Oh, I can't think of the word anyways. It's an expression that of course I can't think of. I love that you do that. And also for those listening, part of that process I imagine for you and your team, May, is also looking at your own calendars. Like we would do
Yes.
this. We're like, okay, if you map it all out on this Gantt chart or on this, whatever you want to call it, and yeah, we'll be ready to present by July 1st. But let's maybe look at the calendar and see how realistic
Hmm.
that is. Like, oh, we've got my kids are doing March break. I'm taking 2 weeks off in March. Okay, what about, oh,
Yeah.
there's the Easter holiday. Okay, oh yeah, we're gonna have a reveal. Oh, I don't want to do a presentation the week after a reveal day. Like we're gonna be tired and at capacity. So it's making sure that you're doing that. And I love that you do that before you even give them the proposal because
Yeah.
they know what they're signing on for when they say yes.
Yes. Last week, I feel like we dodged a bullet as we sent that information out. A client did not like the calendar. They wanted it cut in half. And that's when I said, farewell. That's not how we operate. And I can tell you, if I would have signed on and she truly expected that I was going to renovate a 4,000 square foot home in 2.5 months, start to finish, oh, crazy. Since I put the calendar out there, that saved us because that would have been, ugh, no,
Hmm.
thank you. No, thank you.
I would imagine, especially for construction timelines, because
Mm-hmm.
people don't, they want it done as fast as possible. Usually it's inconvenient for them, whether or not they're living there,
Mm-hmm.
it's still inconvenient, right? And so I
Yeah.
love that you do that. Oh, so many good nuggets. Okay. We are wrapping up our time together here.
Yes, thank
Um,
you.
but I would love to know from you, like before we move into the nugget, let's just talk a little bit. You mentioned mentorship, and I want to talk about mindset because I feel very strongly about the power of mindset and how much it propels us forward. How has your role as a mentor shaped your own growth as a creative leader?
Yeah. Gosh, even you asked me that. I feel like I'm going to get emotional about this question. So bear with me. I've been blessed to hire some beautiful souls on my team. And my company has my name on it, right? Like, that's not going to be everybody's cup of tea forever. And I totally get that. The dreams that my girls have for their futures are amazing. Absolutely amazing. Like one of them wants to build her own custom homes. Like she really wants to go some places in construction. Another one of my designers, I mean, like she's so incredibly talented. So I'm always looking at them of not just what they're going to do for the company, but like what can I do for them while we have this time together, while we're in this beautiful space to set them up for their future dreams? Because an employee that knows that I believe in them not just now, but in the future, they're so much more fully
Mm,
invested in the design because they're here not to just get a paycheck or just to like have fun, because design can be too social sometimes. They really are digging deep and learning. And I'm always asking them, like, what do you want to do next? Where do you want to go? And not from like this, like, don't leave me perspective, but like, I really want to
right.
help launch them into what's next for them because someday I'm going to be that crazy fun old lady at Market Center in her 80s and I'm going to have a colorful coat and I'm just going to be rambling around and I'm going to see them 20 years younger than me in the like the height of their career and it's going to be a beautiful reunion. Like we're going places. It's not necessarily all the same place, but I'm trying to support where they're trying to go because they are really supporting me where I'm trying to go. So,
Wow.
very mutually beneficial. I cannot wait to see what they do next.
I have to say, May, that is very refreshing perspective. I'm hoping the designers listening feel inspired by that. A lot of us have this fear that, what if they leave me? Yeah, they're going to eventually leave you. That's just
Yeah.
how it goes. So why not do exactly as you say? Make it enjoyable, help them on their journey. I love that. What a great way to end the podcast. So phenomenal. Okay, before we wrap up though, what is your last? I feel like you've shared so many nuggets.
Oh,
I
thank
feel a
you.
little bit greedy asking for another one. But because this is the format, I have to. What's your last nugget of wisdom?
Ooh, okay. My last nugget of wisdom is going to be have the hard talks as soon as possible. It's the whole eat a frog for breakfast, you know? I have I'm scared of conflict. I'm also a people pleaser. If I can just get the hard things over with really, really soon, if I've got to break the bad news, just get it over with and just move on with your day. Because I think sometimes it's the unfortunate parts of design that can stifle your creativity the most. If something's weighing on you, get it done, get it over with, because then you can get back to the beautiful.
I love that. I've never had anyone share that nugget. That's a good one. Do the hard thing. Eat the frog for breakfast. Get it freaking over with and move on with your life. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, you've been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today and having this conversation. I know that this is going to inspire a lot of designers. And so for those who are really excited to connect and follow your journey, where can they find and follow you, May?
Well, our favorite is Instagram. We have a lot of fun over there. So on Instagram, we are Mae Reedy Builds. And we've also got a really pretty portfolio style website going on at maereedydesign.com.
I love it. And that is spelled Mareedy for those who are listening.
Correct. Yes.
Um, Thank you so much. I'm wishing you all the best success. I can't wait to connect with you when you're hitting those multiple eight figures and you can tell us what
I
it takes to get
know.
there. I feel like it is
Yeah.
just around the corner for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Rebecca. I've really loved our time together. Thank you.
Okay. How savvy is May? What a great conversation. Truthfully, it really brought me back to the beginnings of my business, especially when we had that conversation about everything being in your head. And I know if you're listening to this, you can relate to that. If you've been in business a couple of years, you know enough that it's in there. And so when someone reaches out to you, you start, but it's all in your head. And so this idea of getting it on paper, I mean, heck, guys, that's how I built out my own 7-step framework. Power of process was built on this foundation, this idea that you need to start documenting things. And I loved how she shared that every time something new comes their way that they need to troubleshoot, figure out how to handle, they write it down. And that has been the key to my success is stop reinventing. Once you have an experience, write it down. I remember it brings up a memory of working on a project out of town. And we did several bathrooms. And I remember being in the bathroom with the contractor. We were reframing the shower. We'd taken out a tub shower combo. We were doing a standalone shower. And my drawings did not reflect that we needed shower jams or the height of the knee wall or the threshold. Like so many things were missing. And I remember in that moment turning to my team member and saying, we need to make a list so that the next time anyone in our firm, and at this time it was just her and I, but I knew that eventually there'd be somebody else, so that we never forget to add this detail to an elevation. And that's how my checklists were born. We just started to create, when you're designing a bathroom, this is a checklist. These are the checklists that I give to designers inside my programs because it's what I wish I'd had. And May reminded me that that has been the key to a lot of my success is when shit hits the fan, write it down, document it so that it doesn't happen again. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. Go give her a follow. She's really doing amazing work. And I can't wait to watch her business grow and have her back in the future to see where she's at. Thank you for listening. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and I'll see you soon.